Hey all, good evening. Thank you for joining me to write down through an Orthodox Christian lens. I happened to see an interesting article this morning from the Grayzone, and I noticed a lot of independent, YouTubers are following this story, and of course I definitely wanted to share it with you. And as you know, the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk was caught yesterday. Really, the supposed killer's family turned him in. So, this is the story. They were saying his name was Tyler Robinson, and they had the footage of him climbing off the roof because apparently he was shooting from the roof. And so that's the story. It's this kid, Tyler Robinson, white guy, Mormon, of course, in Utah. And apparently he was like anti-fascist or something. He has a transgender partner. There's these weird things being written on the shells of the bullets. I think it was the cartridges or something. It's I really don't get all that, but in any case, if you saw the news press conference the past day, there's anyway, it's a very strange information. But anyway, I'm going to share this article because I found it quite interesting. And so I'm going to just read it for you here. Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu funding offer. Was frightened by pro-Israel forces before death, friend reveals. This is by Max Blumenthal and Anya Parampil, his wife, both great independent journalists. A Trump insider and longtime friend of Charlie Kirk tells the Grayzone how the assassinated conservative leader's turning point on Israeli influence provoked a private backlash from Netanyahu's allies that left him angry and afraid. The source said anxiety spread within the Trump administration after an apparent Israeli spying operation was uncovered. Charlie Kirk rejected an offer earlier this year from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to arrange a massive new infusion of Zionist money into his Turning Point USA, TPUSA, organization, America's largest conservative youth association, according to a longtime friend of the slain commentator speaking on the condition of anonymity. I can't say the word. The source told the Grayzone that the late pro-Trump influencer believed Netanyahu was trying to cow him into silence as he began to publicly questioned Israel's overwhelming influence in Washington and demanded more space to criticize it. In the weeks leading up to his September 10 assassination, Kirk had come to loathe the Israeli leader, regarding him as a bully, the source said. Kirk was disgusted by what he witnessed inside the Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personnel decisions and weaponized Israeli assets like billionaire donor Miriam Adelson to keep the White House firmly under its thumb. According to Kirk's friend, who also enjoyed access to President Donald Trump and his inner circle, Kirk strongly warned Trump last June against bombing Iran on Israel's behalf. Charlie was the only person who did that, they said, recalling how Trump barked at him in response and angrily shut down the conversation. The source believes the incident confirmed in Kirk's mind that the President of the United States had fallen under the control of a malign foreign power and was leading his own country into a series of disastrous conflicts. By the following month, Kirk had become the target of a sustained private campaign of intimidation and free-floating fury by wealthy and powerful allies of Netanyahu, figures he described in an interview as Jewish leaders and stakeholders. He was afraid of them, the source emphasized. At TPUSA, the rift with Israel widened. And I forgot. JEWS. I usually say J's, and then Israel. I say Izzy's, so I'll try to remember that. Kirk was 18 years old when he launched TPUSA in 2012. From its inception, his career was propelled by Zionist donors who showered his young organization with money through neoconservative outfits like the David Horowitz Freedom Center. He repaid his wealthy backers over the years by unleashing a relentless fire hose of anti-Palestinian and Islamophobic diatribes, accepting propaganda trips to Israel, and sternly shutting down nationalist forces challenging his support for Israel during Izzy during TPUSA events. In the Trump era, few American Gentiles had proved more valuable to the self-proclaimed J state than Charlie Kirk. But as Izzy's genocidal assault on the besieged Gaza Strip drove an unprecedented backlash within grassroots right-wing circles, where only 24% of younger Republicans now sympathize with Israel over the Palestinians. Kirk where only 24% of younger Republicans now sympathize with Israel over the Palestinians, Kirk began to shift. At times, he towed the Izzy line, spreading disinformation about babies beheaded by Hamas on October 7 and denying the famine imposed on the population of Gaza. Yet he simultaneously ceded to his base, wondering aloud if Jeffrey Epstein was his Izzy intelligence asset, questioning whether the Izzy government allowed the October 7 attacks to proceed in order to advance long-term political goals, and parroting narratives familiar to his most vociferous critic on the right, streamer Nick Fuentes. This July, at his TPUSA Student Action Summit, Kirk provided a forum for the right-wing grassroots to vent its fury about Israel's political hammerlock on the Trump administration. There, speakers from former Fox News stalwarts Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly to the anti-Zionist comedian Dave Smith denounced Izzy's blood-soaked assault on the besieged Gaza Strip, branded Jeffrey Epstein as an Izzy intelligence asset, and openly taunted Zionist billionaires like Bill Ackman for getting away with scams despite having no actual skills. Following the confab, Kirk was bombarded with infuriated text messages and phone calls from Netanyahu's wealthy allies in the U.S., including many who had funded TPUSA. According to his longtime friend, the Zionist donors treated Kirk with outright contempt, essentially ordering him to fall back into line. He was being told what you're not allowed to do, and it was driving him crazy, Kirk's friend recalled. The conservative youth leader was not only alienated by the hostile nature of the interactions, but frightened by the backlash. The friend's account dovetails with those of multiple right-wing commentators with access to Kirk. I think in the end, Charlie was going through a spiritual transformation. Candace Owens, a conservative influencer who shifted decisively against Izzy after October 7th, reflected after her friend's killing. I know it. He was going through a lot. There was a lot of pressure, and it's hard for me to watch the people who were pressuring him just say the things they're saying. She continued, they wanted him to lose everything for changing or even slightly modifying an opinion. It's very hurtful to me. Kirk appeared visibly outraged during an August 6th interview with conservative host Megyn Kelly as he discussed the menacing messages he was receiving from pro-Izzy bigwigs. It's all of the sudden. Oh, Charlie, he's no longer with us. Wait a second. What does with us mean exactly? I'm an American, okay? I represent this country, he explained before addressing the powerful Zionist interests harassing him. The more that you guys privately and publicly call our character into question, which is not isolated, it would be one thing if it were just one text or two texts. It is dozens of texts. Then we start to say, whoa, hold the boat here, Kirk continued. To be fair, some really good J friends say, that's not all of us. But these are leaders here. These are stakeholders. He went on to complain to Kelly, "I have less ability to criticize the Izzy government than actually Izzy's do. And that's really, really weird." In one of his final interviews conducted with Izzy's premier influencer in the United States, Ben Shapiro, Kirk once again tried to raise the issue of censorship of Izzy critics. "A friend said to me, interestingly, 'Charlie, okay, we've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border,' Kirk told Shapiro on September 9th. 'Maybe we should also ask the question, is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Izzy? Just a question.'" Here he says it.
"Charlie, we pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so maybe we should also ask a question, is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says."
Yep. According to Kirk's longtime friend, Kirk's resentment of Netanyahu and the Izzy lobby was spreading within Trump's inner circle. In fact, they said the president himself was terrified of Netanyahu's wrath and feared the consequences of defying him. People had been wondering about this, if Trump was afraid or not afraid of Netanyahu. Well, according to this person, he was and is. Well, it makes a lot of sense of him flip-flopping and not, kowtowing in a way. Anyway, during the past year, the Trump insider was told by contacts in the White House that the Secret Service had caught Izzy government personnel placing electronic devices on its emergency response vehicles on 2 separate occasions. When the Grayzone was unable to confirm the story with the Secret Service or White House, such an incident would not have been unprecedented. Indeed, according to a report in Politico citing 3 former senior U.S. officials, a cell phone spying device was placed by Izzy agents near the White House and other sensitive locations around Washington toward the end of Trump's first term in 2019. Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson recounted a similar incident in his memoir, writing that his security team found a listening device in his bathroom soon after Netanyahu used his personal toilet. The Israeli did it theory. Kirk was killed this September 10 with a single shot fired by a sniper, apparently positioned on a rooftop 200 meters away. He was shot while seated before a crowd of thousands at Utah State University in Orem, Utah, on the first leg of his American comeback tour. The scene of Kirk collapsing from the impact of a gunshot to his neck just as he began answering a question about transgender mass shootings was perhaps the most shocking, vivid spectacle of assassination and certainly the most viral in human history. Yeah, it was horrible. Like I said, there's currently no evidence of an Izzy government role in Kirk's assassination. However, that has not stopped thousands of social media users from speculating that the pro-Trump operative's shifting views on the issue contributed in some way to his death. By the time of publication, over 100,000 Twitter/X users have liked a September 11th post by libertarian influencer Ian Carroll declaring about Kirk he was their friend. He basically dedicated his life to them, and they murdered him in front of his family. Izzy just shot themselves. Many advancing the unsubstantiated theory have pointed to a Twitter/X post by Harrison Smith, a personality at the pro-Trump InfoWars network, stating on August 13th, almost a month before Kirk's assassination, that he was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Kirk thinks Izzy will kill him if he turns against Izzy. Yeah, I wonder if this is the guy that they interviewed, a friend of him. Yeah, sounds kind of like it, doesn't it? The frenzied speculation has set off shockwaves in Tel Aviv, where Netanyahu was compelled to explicitly deny that his government killed Kirk during a September 11th interview with Newsmax. That appearance was just one of several interviews and statements the Prime Minister dedicated to Kirk in the wake of his killing in an effort to frame the late conservative leader's legacy in a uniformly pro-Izzy light. The major public relations push has occurred while Netanyahu wages a military campaign on 7 fronts, good grief, punctuated by a regional assassination spree that most recently reached into the heart of Qatar, a U.S. ally. Netanyahu first tweeted prayers to Kirk at 3:02 p.m. in the afternoon on September 10, minutes after news of the shooting broke. He has since authored 3 additional posts about Kirk, even breaking away from the Izzy War cabinet to spend the afternoon of September 11th memorializing the conservative leader on Fox News. During that interview, Netanyahu did his best to insinuate that Izzy's enemies were responsible for murdering Kirk, despite the fact no suspect was named or in custody at the time. The radical Islamists and their union with the ultra-progressives, they often speak about human rights, they speak about free speech, but they use violence to try to take down their enemies. And more projecting here and placing blame on someone else, the Prime Minister told Harris Faulkner. In a September 10, Twitter/X post, eulogizing the conservative leader, the Israeli Prime Minister described a recent phone conversation with Kirk. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Izzy, he said. Sadly, that visit will not take place. I don't think he wanted to go in the first place. Left unmentioned was whether Kirk declined the invitation, just as he did with the Prime Minister's offer to reload TPUSA's coffers with the donations from his coterie of wealthy American J cutouts. At the time of publication, a 22-year-old resident of Utah has been taken into custody after supposedly confessing to killing Kirk. The public may soon learn the true motives of the alleged assassin. Perhaps they will fuel the narrative which Trump and his allies advanced in the immediate wake of the shooting, that a leftist radical was responsible and that a wave of draconian repression must follow. But after the shooter's initial escape and a series of federal law enforcement mishaps, a large sector of Americans will likely never believe the official story, nor will they ever know where Kirk's turning point on Izzy would have taken the conservative movement. Yeah, I really think because he had such a following, I think that was a real threat. If he changed his view on Izzy and started to speak negatively about them and, the genocide and everything else going on, that would change the minds of millions of people on the conservative side. And, I could tell you that Netanyahu wouldn't want that. Now, they said no proof, but this is just what they interviewed this person, and that's what was said. 4 days before the assassination, frustration among pro-Izzy commentators bubbled over in public during a Fox News interview in which Ben Shapiro launched a chilling attack on Kirk without naming him. The problem with the big tent is that you may end up with many clowns inside, he said to Fox host and fellow Zionist gatekeeper Mark Levin in an apparent critique of TPUSA. It's almost kind of the way he had talked. It feels like it's the way he talked about Candace Owen as well. And Candace Owens, it seems. Just because you're saying somebody votes Republican, that doesn't mean that they ought to be the preacher at the front of the church. They're not the person that ought to be leading the movement if they are spending all day criticizing the President of the United States as covering up a Mossad rape ring or being a tool of the Izzies for hitting an Iranian nuclear facility. Yeah, well, Ben Shapiro is, Class A Zionist creep. Anyway, when Kirk took his usual place at the front of the church 4 days later, he was cut down by a sniper's bullet. Within 24 hours of Kirk's death, Shapiro announced that he would be launching his own campus speaking tour, vowing, "We're going to pick up that blood-stained microphone where Charlie left off." Amazing report. I don't like Ben Shapiro. I think he's terrible. The way he's defended mass murder of babies and children and all these innocent people. Sorry, just don't like the guy. And oh yes, we're going to go do the tour and we're going to pick it up for him. No, I think his wife is going to do that. He's going to carry on, but I just get this really icky feeling about Ben Shapiro, as if he's just a, how they say that Trump is a Russian asset? They would say that Trump is a, well, my feeling is that Ben Shapiro is a Izzy asset. So, anyway, as they said, they don't have any evidence at this time. But a lot of people were thinking this. At the beginning, it was it the Ukrainians that killed him? Was it the Izzies? Was it, some just radical person or mentally ill person or whatever? There were a lot of questions going around. The thing is, as Colonel McGregor said in an interview with Stephen Gardner I watched either this morning or last night, he doesn't, how can anybody trust the FBI with their track record of hiding things and lies? It's very difficult to, and then again, within 36 hours, actually a little bit less, they caught the supposed killer. Although, like I said, that his dad, his family turned him in. I don't know. It's hard to trust anything these days, because if your government has not been truthful to you and honest for decades, it's very hard. Things always seem weird and creepy. I mean, it just kind of reminds me of the whole roof thing and, jumping down and it just reminds me of the Butler thing that was never really figured out. The way they just disposed of crooks. They, rinsed, hosed down all the evidence within hours. And then, his body was cremated within, what was it, like 24 to 48 hours? It was like, oh, well, we'll just... it reminds me of when they got rid of all the evidence of 9/11, all the metal. They just sent it over on a barge to China. Never mind. And you're not supposed to mess with the crime scene. So there's this pattern that you see all the time with these kind of with the FBI and others and CIA and these agencies. So I guess I'm a little skeptical. I'm trying to be like, okay, well, that's him, and just get over it. But I'm open to it being something else, but I'm not set on anything. I'm not like, yep, that's the answer, because we don't really know. I'm just saying it's good that report came out, because you learn more of what was going on behind the scenes with Charlie and the Trump administration, and the fact that Trump himself, supposedly by this good friend of Charlie's, is actually afraid of Netanyahu, and well, how many others are in our government? We know this. The money, the donors, the threats, the blackmail, like, for instance, with the Epstein ring. So, yeah. But not everything is going to come to it being Izzy or a cover-up of this or, whatever. It's just good to keep an eye on this just in case. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this. If you found it informative, and please share, because, it's good to get out the Grayzone's work. It's really important. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, where you are. Thanks for following my channel. Until next time.